Well, let's start with a game that was pivotal, I think. Could have been pivotal until the end, until that late goal for the race to the Champions League places. Manchester City against Aston Villa. Late heroics from Mateus Nunes, the midfielder impersonating a right back.
Yeah, who Pep said he could become a really good right back if he wanted to, I guess, because Pep really believes he's got the ability, physicality, etc. to be good there. I mean, I'm still not convinced, but Doku making that goal, Pep saying that he's the best in the world over 5 meters. It's a shame that the pitch is then so much bigger than 5 meters, obviously. But on that one, well done to Doku for really cooking Axel Disasi. And why is Axel Disasi playing right back in this Aston Villa team is beyond me. I know
you go Matty Cash?
No, I mean, Konsa is the best pick here. I think he's even better than Cash. But certainly, if you make a change halfway through the game, don't put Disasi there. Put Disasi as a centre-back. Move Konsa from centre-back to right-back, and that would be so much better. And Unai did it against PSG, didn't work at all. Again, he was cooked. Did it in this game, didn't work at all. Was cooked. The way he commits himself on the Doku, on the second goal, and what Doku does to him is ridiculous at this level. So for me, this was massively on Emery.
I was struck by City's lineup again, and it's late in the season. I just don't understand kind of what's going on, because they bring in all these young players in the summer, and you figure Pep staying, but then we don't see these guys play. You know, Nico and Kusanov and whatever. We see other guys. We see Marcotti and O'Reilly, who we're told are attacking midfielders. One of them plays wide, comes inside. The other one playing left back, and obviously effective. There's no proper center forward. I guess Marmoush was coming in.
Yeah.
And then you have all the old guys, all the ballers, Gundogan, De Bruyne, Kovacic, Bernardo. It just seems weird, and there's no Phil Foden. I don't... again, it's the kind of thing where we don't question it because it's Pep and he's a genius and he's earned the right.
Yeah.
But it's thinking outside the box, and I love it when he thinks outside the box, but it has to work. And late goal aside, I'm not sure this worked. This would have been really, really bad if they had dropped 2 points here.
Yeah, and it was not a really good performance, let's be honest. The first half was not too bad. Second half was, until the goal, was pretty average, I thought, from both teams. Maybe he just wanted a bit more control, and that gives you more than Doku, Savinho, even more than Foden. That's what you get with the players that you mentioned. So I think that was probably the idea there. Even O'Reilly brings you even more of that control because he's the left back that steps into midfield a lot and plays into midfield, and that quality on the ball, really. So all about I guess the control, which works to a certain extent, certainly not to lose games, to win games.
That's what I mean. I mean, I understand control when you don't want to concede, you want to pick your spots, or maybe you have a real center forward and you ping the ball around and then you get it to him, or he generates space. But when you're effectively playing without a center forward, that control seems purely defensive against a team where, for Villa, a point would have been fine.
Yeah,
I mean, they've got big game coming up at the weekend, and I mean, obviously so do City, but more so for Villa, I think.
Yeah.
That surprised me. And Jules, a stat: when they conceded that goal. This is the 22nd goal they've conceded at home this season. Do you know how many years ago? That is the most goals conceded at home.
I read it somewhere. I saw it somewhere.
2003-04. I mean, this is like pre-Abu Dhabi, pre-Taksin. This is like bad City type number.
Bad City. And I don't even know what people are complaining about the Ruben Dias penalty. It's a penalty every day. I just don't understand. He barges into him. It's not about him being in the way. It's just he barges into a player that has the ball, that has control of the ball. So it's a penalty. It's another mistake by Ruben. It's another mistake defensively from City that are just not good enough defensively.
Marcus Rashford did well, but also his entourage has put out his demands and his expectations for the future. I thought it was pretty remarkable. He doesn't want to move to London. He wants a Champions League club. He wants. We're going to break down further whether he's just maybe that tiny bit deluded about how much leverage he actually has. All right, let's break this Rashford stuff down a little bit further, because, of course, Rashford is Manchester United related, and they're massive, and they do metrics and all this stuff that's so important in engagement. All right, he has 3 years left on his contract at Manchester United. Under the reported terms of his deal with Villa, Villa can make the deal permanent for £40 million. big sticking point is his salary, which I believe is in excess of 15 million pounds a year. Again, just for context, he might just have slipped out of the top 5 of highest paid players in the Premier League. But he's very close.
Not far, yeah.
So that 40, let's start with the 40 million is completely irrelevant.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Because, Aston Villa, I think if they went to United and said, we'll take him for free and pay all his wages going forward, United I don't think are going to say no. United know that at his age, he's 28 years old. He's not going to get, nobody's going to give you money for Marcus Rashford. It seems very evident to me. Even though he has been playing better.
Yeah.
But it's still not something, he hasn't been playing to a salary. So then I was surprised then his entourage come out and says, well, maybe he'll go back to Manchester United. Maybe if he does move, it has to be a Champions League club. He doesn't want to move to London. I don't know what the issue is there. So I look at Champions League clubs in the Premier League. We don't know who's going to be there. I don't know, you can go play for Nottingham Forest. And Mr. Marinakis can bring you Marcus Rashford.
Exactly.
You'd be a fit there.
Can you imagine? After Jesse Lingard, Marcus Rashford.
Man City, I don't think are going to go for Marcus Rashford for obvious reasons. Liverpool,
neither.
obviously not. I don't think he has a market abroad. Do you?
I think he always wanted to go abroad anyway. He didn't want to go to Aston Villa. He didn't want to stay in England. I think the dream was always Spain, especially Barcelona, which they seem to really believe in.
But Marcus and Barcelona's wingers are absolute rubbish, right?
Yeah,
Lamine
of
Yamal and
course.
Rafinha. So he would walk into that team.
And even
I'm being
their centre
sarcastic,
forward
internet.
is a bit old, but he's still pretty good. So
He doesn't want to play center forward too.
as well,
apparently.
yeah, true. That's true. Although he played as centre forward in this game, obviously, and against PSG in the Champions League. So I don't really know where the future is. And there's maybe a solution if Villa qualify for the Champions League and want to keep him and can keep him and find an agreement with him on salary, because they obviously cannot pay £350,000 a week. This is not, it would destroy their wage bill, their wage structure. I'm not even sure they could actually afford it anyway. So, but maybe if he's happy there, maybe there's a way there. But I think I think a lot of people saw this move and him playing a little bit better, saying, "Oh yeah, great! Now the future is looking bright for Marcus Rashford." I'm not sure it is looking bright. I think it's still very complicated on what he does next. It's not a loan of 6 months, even if it's a bit better. True, that really right now is changing everything.
I would say the future is bright. Oh, and the other thing that he said, is that he doesn't want to be involved in a swap deal because those are complicated. Again, this is what's being reported. I presume it comes from his entourage. I think, by the way, his communication is absolutely terrible. The people who are speaking on his behalf. First of all, swap deals don't necessarily need to be that complicated. And so it's not your freaking problem. You were at United sitting on your backside when Ten Hag put you out of the team. You know what? You think it's going to take time this summer to sort out a swap? This makes zero sense to me.
Yeah.
But I think what gets me now is the option of going back to United. I mean, Amorim had 3 months to assess him, right?
Yeah.
And obviously it's not working there. I mean, you either like Emery and you thank Mr. Emery for sorting out your career and even putting aside a guy like Ollie Watkins, who's been so popular at the club and so important to the club, to give you space. Otherwise, dude, I kind of feel like, you control your future. You're a big name. You need to take a pay cut. You need to take a voluntary pay cut and say, you know what? I am being owed I think the figure's closer to 300. You mentioned 350. Others have said 350. Whatever it is, right?
Something like that.
It's basically it's 50 million pounds over the next 3 years, right? Give or take. You come out and you say, you know what? I'm going to play for 200 grand a week. Next 3 years. Who wants me? And I will speak to United. Because if you go to United and you say, look, we'll take him off your hands on a permanent deal and we won't give you any money for it, I don't think United are going to say no. Or if it's just a few million. I think that's something you can negotiate. And then you have to negotiate with Rashford. Rashford just drop his demands. If he has all this ambition, if he wakes up and he says, I already have generational wealth, let me go. And then, then maybe if you want to go abroad, you'll find a team that can take you. The only teams in the world that pay this kind of wages are Real Madrid, who need a player like Rashford, like they need a hole in the head right now. Barcelona, where there's better players than you in your positions. Bayern, who I mean, I think they're all in for Verts and stuff, and they already have a gaggle
not
of
for
wingers.
Rashford, yeah.
That's it. Like honestly, I don't believe
or
there's nobody
PSG,
else in
but
Europe.
yeah, he's not
Or
going to
sorry, or
PSG.
Paris Saint-Germain, who've
Yeah.
obviously gone in a very different direction,
Yeah.
and who arguably have better players than you in those positions.
Yeah.
So to me,
that's why I said it's complicated. I really don't know. Nobody can tell me where Marcus Rashford will play on September 1st. It's impossible to predict.
Villa also are in a tight spot. They did gamble a lot. They went all in. They sold Duran really, really well.
Yeah.
We don't 100% know the PSR situation, but a lot of people who've got a pretty good handle on this, including Swiss Ramble, say it's very touch and go for them.
Yeah.
It could be pretty disastrous if they don't get into the Champions League.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, they will get a lot of money for their Champions League campaign this season, to be fair. So that's a massive relief compared to if they've been out in the league phase, for example. But I really think, and you almost saw it on Unai Emery's face, that second goal went in, like how, I mean, I've rarely seen him like that, and I've obviously known him really well up in Paris and in London too, to be so devastated by a goal when there's still 5 more games to play in this season, so they can still finish top 5, and yet it felt like the world collapsed on him. I think he knows that if there's no Champions League football next season, it could be a very tricky summer. And not just to keep Rashford or Asensio if they want to keep him or even Disasi, but for everything they're trying to build there, and especially to build that momentum. And that's why they said after the PSG tie too, that they wanted to have more nights like that. And for that, you have to play every single season in the Champions League. And imagine going back to the Conference League next season.
Yeah,
which they were obviously not that long ago, but it still doesn't feel the same, obviously, and it's certainly not the same revenue.
I mean, the last couple of years they performed minor miracles and getting all that money for Diaby and then getting all that money for John Duran. I think that well has run dry.
Yeah.
Obviously, Monchi is a very, very clever operator, and you hope if you're a Villa fan that you don't have to lose one of your big pieces. And I say big pieces. Okay, Watkins is slightly different because he's a bit older and stuff.
Yeah.
He would get you some money back, but if you miss out on everything and you need to get a big influx, you don't want to be giving up your stars, but you don't want to be giving up a Morgan Rogers.
Kamara and Rogers are the two. Kamara, especially for me, the most important player in that team. So,
shifting back to City, we're befuddled by some of his decisions. I'm befuddled. I've been befuddled all year. In fact, fun fact: if you told people the reigning player of the year is Phil Foden, I think few people would believe you. Now, at the start of the season when he wasn't playing, you had a virus, you had this and that.
Burnout,
What's the issue now?
I mean, he played 57 minutes in the derby. That's his only appearance in the last 4 Premier League games. I mean, O'Reilly and McAtee and players like that ahead of him. I'm not saying that he could play left back like O'Reilly, but he's still so low in the picking order. I even wonder if he warm-ups, Gabs, during games, if he actually goes on the touchline and runs with his bib with the others. I mean, every time the camera pans on to him during games, he looks so, again, deflected and so upset. I just don't know. Or maybe they just want to see the season out and think, you know what, next season you'll be back to your best and it's okay and we'll build a team around you. KDB will be gone.
Well, that young man with the red hair running around, he looks pretty darn good.
Yeah. I mean, if they sign Florian Wirtz, it's probably the worst thing that could happen to Phil Foden, I think. I just don't see a place for Phil Foden in this team, away from being central, as in like central position behind Haaland. Wide is not for him anymore. I think we all know that, even for control. So if Wirtz come for 150 million, then I think that's not the end for Foden. He's still young enough, but that's really bad news for him.
It seems so odd to me the way City operate and are run, and I'll be really curious to see. Obviously, there's been a change. It's not just about Pep; it's about Hugo Viana, right? Mm-hmm. And how he sees it, because they invested in all these younger players, and I think we all had some doubts. I mean, Reis, I haven't seen enough. I don't know.
Yeah.
Husanov, I've seen. I think the guy's really raw, and I think that's a ton of money to spend on a guy that unproven, who you just don't know can make the grade at City. Nico, my thoughts.
Yes,
I
Nico,
think it's money down the toilet, or all that money anyway. And then you've got KDB leaving. You've got Bernardo Silva. Every year, it's the same charade about him. Like, oh no, he wants to go. He wants to stay. You know, Pep. I don't keep anybody against the world. He's still there. I mean, it's a lot of questions. It's a long, long list of things.
Yeah.
And I just wonder, will Pep be a part of it?
Yeah, I think he will be. I mean, I think even if he extended his contract when things were much better before the huge drop, obviously, and dip, I still think he will be there. But it's more, we know they have money. How much money do they really have? Because if they're ready to spend that much on Verts, if that's true, I mean, 150 million, how much left do you have after that for other positions that need, and then we said the whole squad needs so much surgery. I hope for them they've got 300 million, because if half of that is gone on Verts, who's an amazing player, but then it doesn't leave you much then behind to look after all the other positions.
And I think there's a lot of positions, and a lot of, obviously, Gundogan we don't think is going to be around. KDB's leaving. There's just a lot of bodies you have to.
Yeah, I think they extended Gundogan by a year, but
I mean, what are you going to get out of him?
Yeah, exactly. But right back, left back, there's so many things to look into, really.
And we haven't even mentioned the 115 charges.